Welcome to the Daily Dish with Leanne Ely. This is a show about you, your life, and the vibrancy you want. Join us for daily motivation, wise women's tips, and more as we collectively gather together and move the needle in our lives, heart, mind, body, and soul. Now, here is your host, Leanne Ely, and the Daily Dish.
And it's Wise Women's Wednesday. Are you excited or what? Welcome to the Daily Dish. If this is your first time around, I'm not cooking. We're talking about life in general, and I am just delighted that you have found your way here. I see Denise and Marguerite and Jackie and Flynn and Noreen and Amber's in the house. So is Jenny. I mean, should we have a party? Snow is also falling off of my roof. So if you think an intruder is trying to get in, it's finally starting to melt a little bit. So I'm glad you're all here. We're going to have a great show. I hope we're going to have a great show for you today. We've been talking about emotional intelligence all this week, which is one of my favorite topics because it's such an aha thing, for so many of us. Jocelyn's here, Joanne and Jama, all in the house. So, it makes all the difference in the world. And last night, by the way, was our first night with the rising tide. Those of you who were there, wasn't that great? I had a good time. I don't know about you, but I walked away with a little something. So anyway, I'm really excited about that. Rising tide goes all the way through the month of January on Tuesday nights for 2 hours. And if you didn't sign up this time, sorry, it's closed. We have closed it because a third of it is already through. But what a great time. I just wanted to mention that it was really great. I loved how people just really, they came to the table with, they kept help me with this and help me with that. And let's do this. They've got ideas in their heads of what it is that they want to accomplish. And I know they're going to get there. I'm really excited about it. Hey, Susan, she said it was great last night. Susan was there. Hey, Jeanette, I'm glad you're here. Doris, Juanita's here. She was there last night too. Those who don't believe in magic, they will never find it. Did you know that? You know that. Of course. If we don't believe in magic, we can't find it. If we don't look for it, if we don't decide we're going to racket it up and take it up the next level, it's never going to happen. So much of this is dependent on us. Hey, Jennifer, Nancy, glad you're here. Yes. There's our lovelies all marching on in. I love that. Inner Circle begins on February 8th. That is also going to be on a Tuesday night. I'm excited about that one as well. We still have room for you. Check it out at savingdinner.com/circle. It's a 12-week program for women who want to take it to the next level. Let me just say, we all have carousels of crazy in our lives, don't we? That's the whole thing. We're unplugging from that whole nonsense. So that's what that's about. I'll let you take a look at that at the page, savingdinner.com/circle. See if that's for you. That's all you need to do. The other thing that I want to let you know is that on Friday, we're doing Q&A. Don't forget, send your questions in. Do them now. Right now would be a really good idea. Send an email to support@savingdinner.com and in the subject line, put question for Leanne on Friday. I love that because then I'm going to see everything. I'm going to see everything that's on your heart and help you out as best I can. Tuesday nights are becoming my favorite night. Nancy, I agree with you 100%. I think they really are. They're becoming a really fun night. There's Tanya. We talked about you last night, Tanya, were your ears burning? And there's Deborah, of course, in the house. Lovely to have you here. Alice is here too. Did you see that? Alice came home. Alice came home in the house. Here's our Darla. Anyway, so that's what's happening in Inner Circle. You can find out all about that. And the last thing I'm going to tell you about, of course, is, second to last thing, this Vibrant Body Detox, buy 3, get 1 free. This is something I take every night before I go to bed. Check it out. You can find out all about this and why it is such a needle mover for your health. It's going to help you with your liver, can I just say? savingdinner.com/show. That's where our show supplements are supplement of the week or special of the week is always parked. If you buy 3, we will give you the 4th one absolutely free. That's a screaming deal, by the way. Come on. Don't you love a good deal? I sure do. And it is our 21st birthday. Anybody want to say happy birthday? Of course you do. And if you are joining us for our 21st birthday celebration, which, by the way, is this month, we don't have an exact day, but choose a day. Today's good. Text the word join to this phone number, 855-960-3720. And guess what we will do? We will send you back a text message. You just confirm that you want messages from us. Don't send them very often. And I'm just saying, you might see a screaming deal from us that you'll only get if you take up your phone, give us a call, give us a text. That's how this whole thing works. Darla is celebrating because she likes a little birthday. Margot's in the house. Wendy, hi. I'm glad you're here. Gloria's here. Isn't it so fun to get together? I think it is. I think it's a blast to get together. So yes, we're celebrating all this month. And we will be blowing out no candles from any cake. Nah, doesn't do anything for me or you or anybody else. So that's what we have going on. And today, of course, is Wise Women's Wednesday. We are moving the needles in a big way in our lives, aren't we? I know I am. I'm working really hard on that. And you know what I have discovered as I was thinking through everything is just exactly how emotional intelligence has worked its way into everything that I touch and everything that I do without knowing what it was. And I'm going to explain that because I think this might be one of the missing pieces for you. I know it was for me, and it's made a big, big difference, and it's really changed a lot of the way I do things. So I personally believe that developing your emotional intelligence is an integral part of creating the vibrancy that you want most in your life. I do. Because if you don't, then you get stuck in the old loops. You get stuck in all the old garbage that you don't want. You know, we have patterns. We all do. We have old thinking patterns as well. We have old thoughts that we think. We have old neurons that keep firing that until we get to the place of emotional intelligence, which basically emotional intelligence is just succinctly is observing the way we are and then deciding to make different moves based on our emotional intelligence. Hey there, Lucy. I'm glad you're here. So if we look at it, we can understand that emotional intelligence directly impacts and influences the success of anything. Seriously, emotional intelligence will move the needle in your career or on the job. Emotional intelligence will move the needle on any kind of personal development goal that you have, any kind of physical goal that you have, whatever it is. If you think about it, you'll see what I mean. Because emotional intelligence really holds the ball. Emotional intelligence is the thing. Jane's here. I'm glad you're here, Jane. So when we go to the place of putting emotional intelligence into our own personal equations, you know, it can be somewhat daunting because, I mean, it's like, okay, so I get it. I get what you're talking about, but how? What do you do? How do we as wise women create space for emotional intelligence in our lives? And I believe that there's several things that you can do, but there's, you know, several things that have to be there. Otherwise it can't happen. And the first one is we have to start with 2 things, right? Isn't this always the way? And by the way, if you like these shows and you would like show notes, you can always get them by going to savingdinner.com and filling out the little pop-up. It's annoying, I get it, that comes up. But that's just to get on our list for our newsletter because that's where our show notes are every day after. Corliss and Mary are both here. Isn't that great? So when we start with observation, there's 2 things that we have to look at. The first one is, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? And sometimes that takes a little dissemination because you're going, oh, you know, I'm not sure. I'm just kind of out of sorts here. Well, what's that all about? And what we need to do with something like that is maybe there was an interaction with somebody. Were you triggered by that particular interaction, or did it bring up an old memory? You see what I mean? So we have to look at these, because when we're coming from the place of observation, then we can see, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm reacting. And this is what's truly behind all of this. Then we can start to understand and change something so that we're not knee-jerking it, but we're instead processing it well. You see what I'm saying with that? That's how it was. The only thing that we can do is really take an observation of what we're about and what we're doing. And especially if it's something that we seem to have this pattern. Have you ever noticed that in a relationship that there's a pattern that emerges? He says one thing, you say another, then this, then that, and then the next thing you know, or whatever, or cold shoulder or whatever. It's because there's an area that's not developed. And when we have the wherewithal to go there and say, you know what, I'm going to observe this in myself and see what this is about. Yeah, no, you can't go in there and tell, your significant other, hey, you need to change this because it's triggering that. That's not what it's about. It's about you. And it's about your processing, your reaction or response. We can react or we can respond. That's later. But we need to just come from it purely from an observational standpoint, because then we can start to really assess what the heck is going on. And when we pay attention to the way we feel, that creates a safety net and helps us to know ourselves better. Because I'm just going to say it. I think the truth is that we don't really know ourselves that well. We're so busy. We're doing this, we're doing that, we're taking care of this, we're taking care of that. All I know is I would like this to happen, or this to happen, or that to happen. But really sitting down with ourselves and going through the whys of why this is important and understanding the full context of what it is that we want, that's where things are different. That's where things become different, because now from the observation deck of your own mind, you can see, oh, I see a pattern here, or, I wonder what this is about. Why do I react like this? What's this all about? When we can do that, that puts us in a power place, because we can either refine our reaction or response, or we can just take a chance, take a step back and just say, I need a minute to really to respond to this, so that I can respond in a way that's not going to be something I have to apologize for later, or, whatever. But this is how we start. We always have to start with, how are we feeling? Because that feeling it's not from someone else. It's from yourself, based on something that triggered you. And then the second thing is, of course, is how are you behaving? How are you behaving? And this isn't so that you can laud and pile on judgment upon yourself, right? And saying, oh, well, and I just have no control, and this, that, and the other thing. It is not that. But what we need to do is we just need to honestly assess our behavior and figure out what it's about. Going back to how do I feel? Because your feeling is going to lead to your behavior. And if things feel out of control, and then you have an out of control reaction and behavior, then we're not doing anything, are we? We're not going to places that we want to go, are we? That's exactly what happens, and it's exactly how we fall apart, and it's exactly what holds us back, is because most of us don't take the time to do this. We don't take the time to observe how we're feeling, nor do we take the time to take a look at what our behavior is without the judgment. We'll put ourselves down, we'll say, oh yeah, this always happens, and then dismiss and on to the next thing. So staying in on this observation deck that I'm talking about in your mind of how you feel and what your behavior is about is the first step in taking for emotional intelligence. That's the first step. And happy birthday, Norma. I'm glad you're here. Number 2 is you have to stand up, step up, and you have to take responsibility. This is the part where it gets hard. And this is the part that I've noticed this a lot with my coaching clients. And I've noticed this a lot in, just I see this in life in general. I've certainly been in a conversation with folks like this, and so have you. And that is folks that don't step up and take responsibility. The blame game simply creates emotional immaturity and kills relationships. Have you noticed that? Has anybody had any success at all blaming other people? Anyone? No, of course not. No one. No one. Because no one can make you do anything or feel any way or say anything. No one can. You know, no one is standing over you with a gun to your head and saying, you need to do this, or threatening to take your dog out, take your dog away from you for the rest of your life, or anything like that. Nobody's going to hand you $1 million and say, I want you to behave in such a fashion either. There's no make here. There's no make. It's just a choice. It's just a choice. And this is liberating, by the way, because if we can own how we feel and own how we behave, then we could change it. You can't change something you have no ownership over. You can't change something if it's just like this wild bronco, right? It's just that, and this is what happens. Is I can't help it. He always, and because, and this kind of garbage keeps us stuck in the place we don't want to go. And emotional immaturity will always lead to more emotional immaturity. Everybody else is responsible for your life. Everybody else is responsible for how you feel or how you react. It's not your fault, And if this is the notion, and when I'm saying all of this, of course, I'm saying this from the place of, no, you don't want that. Because that's the stuck place. That is the stuck place. It's liberating when you don't have to feel responsible for anyone else, just yourself. You don't have to feel like they've got responsibility for, it's just you. That's liberating. That should be liberating, because it says to you that this guy knows how, or this gal knows how to push my buttons, and I can choose to back away and not allow that to happen. And then it's really confounding to the other person when you decide to not play the game and not do the dance of, danger, danger, pull down the relationship dance. When you make a decision to step away from that and instead practice emotional intelligence, your partner can't dance, can get frustrated, can get angry, whatever, or say, what's going on? There's everything can happen there. But if you don't take responsibility for yourself with emotional intelligence, you can't get to that place. It's just the same old, same old. So keep in mind that this is a liberating thing. And number 3 is responding is way different than reacting. Responding is a conscious thing, and it's brought on by thought. It's brought on by thought. It's thought out. It's like, if A equals B, then I need to be careful of C. We'll have to bring this down. We'll have to go through this, through that, through this. Those are the things that we have to do. We have to go through the process. And have you noticed, if you think about it, you can feel the process happening, because it starts in the back of the mind and it works its way forward. It does. You can almost feel it creeping along, because your first reaction is, oh, no, you don't. And then as you go along, you can come to the place of saying, now, like if you were, disciplining a child, you can sit down with the child and say, all right, so let's talk about what happened after school today. You had a temper tantrum in Target, and things were just not going well. Can we talk about this and have a discussion? And then you can choose your reaction. You can choose instead of knee-jerking it. Because I don't know about you, but personally for me, every time there's been a knee-jerk reaction, every single time, I have always regretted it. Even if I might have been in the right, it still comes across as being too harsh. It still comes across as being not caring. It still communicates something that I didn't want communicated. It doesn't mean, like for example, if it was something with my kids, it doesn't mean that I've stopped loving my children. It just means that there was something that needed corrected. There was a behavior that needed corrected. But it didn't mean that I'm just going to completely shun them for life, right? Because that's what knee-jerk stuff is always, never, you, and blaming and all of that. And it's not healthy because it takes it pushes everything aside. So we can respond differently. We can respond differently because responding is a conscious thing, and it thinks things through, while reacting is knee jerk, it's unconscious, and it's a lot of blame shifting, and it's a lot of just unfathomable stuff that's never going to help build the relationship. As a matter of fact, it's going to tear it apart. So we can choose to react, or we can choose, if we want to respond. And sometimes the best response is one that says, I can deal with this later. Right now, I need this time to process. That's all you need to say in an even tone. And sorry, Lincoln's upstairs at the mailman again. But the other thing that you can do too is when you're in this place, when, and maybe you don't have the time necessarily for a long processing thing. You know what really helps, though, that is so incredible, is to ask questions. And if you ask questions just like, I don't understand what's happening here. Can you just explain this? Can you tell me exactly why you're so upset? Tell me exactly what is going on here. Using your I words, especially if you're talking with a child. And it makes all the difference in the world, because a discussion says I care, and investing that time and having an eyeball to eyeball discussion builds the relationship. Whether it's with a child, it's with a colleague, it's with a friend, or with a spouse. That's what we're about, because we're here on this planet to do good and to be good, right? We're here on this planet for purpose and by purpose. And all of this is to bring others around, bring other people to the table, to love them up. And we can't do that if we're stuck in these negative loops. And that's precisely what this is all about. Emotional intelligence takes us out of the negative loop and puts us back at the place where we can discuss, where we can work things out, and where nobody's pants are on fire. It's out of love that you create this empathetic place of, we want to work this out because our relationship ultimately is more important than this disagreement. That's exactly what happens with emotional intelligence. And I would say number 4 to this whole thing is, this is what empathy is. It takes a whole heck of a lot of practice, So now what I want to say is this. It was interesting because on my personal page, I had a Brene Brown, I've shared this, but a Brene Brown quote, and a gal came along and said, well, I can't, if I haven't experienced it, I can't be empathetic. And that's precisely the opposite of what it is that empathy is that you are empathetic, even though you haven't, that you are sympathetic, even though you haven't walked in those shoes. You don't need to. Now, I will say this about, like, for example, somebody that has had a miscarriage and you've never had one, you can still be empathetic and just say, you must be going through a lot right now. Sure, of course they are. And you can say things like, I'm here for you. Can I bring a meal over? Or something that says, I care. What can I do? Without hijacking their hurt. Because here's what happens quite a bit. And my mother used to do this, and I did too for a while, until I clued into that it wasn't about me. And that is this. When somebody has something, you can say, hey, I may not have walked in these shoes, but I just want you to know that I am here for you. Here's my phone number. Text me if you need anything, etc. But then you go ahead and you turn around and you text, how are you doing today? I was thinking about you. And just letting them know that it wasn't just polite, hey, how are you? See you later. Here's my phone number if you need anything, and then going off and forgetting. It's sincere about that connection and giving them that kind of a thing. But the hijacking of the story is where you say, oh, I know all about, I know what it feels like to have a miscarriage. Way back when, before I had Caroline, and then telling my whole miscarriage story. and then telling how I was in the hospital and the pain that I went through and the crying and all that, and just starting to buy maternity clothes. It's not my story. It's not my time to tell my story. Now, if that person asked, what happened to you? How did this impact you? What did you do next? Then you tell your story. But for right now, walking alongside someone is basically holding their hand and saying, I love you, I care about you, and it's all about you. And it's about your story. It's about your pain. And even though I've not experienced it, I can still empathize with the fact that you're going through something, and that's enough for me to love you up and to be your friend. That's emotional intelligence right there in practice. And when we do that, we elevate the relationship as well as elevating the connection that we have with that person, whoever they are. Can you see how emotional intelligence takes that vibrancy to the next level? So if you're talking to a friend, you've given your friend tons of permission to come to you and to talk about things that maybe they haven't talked to anybody else about, because they know that you're not going to launch into your own thing. If you do this too with a spouse, you're allowing your spouse to say, man, I'm just really having a hard time, without having to put up the defense mechanisms so that they're not going to get attacked for that too. You know, do you understand what I'm saying with all of this? This is how we love. This is how we love. This is what we're called to do, to walk alongside. We are called to this. You know, this is how empathy works. Empathy costs time. It costs a little bit of energy. It costs love, and it costs putting somebody in front of mind and making sure that they stay there. So I really believe that, you know, it takes a lot of practice though, because we don't naturally do that. But when we do, we're playing on the level of our higher selves, and we're addressing our friend or spouse or whomever's higher self as well. And that's just a damn releasing of relief, isn't it? It is, because it gives permission and it gives a whole lot of room for a whole lot of love. And that's healing. Number 5, if you don't know how you feel, by the way, if you don't know how you feel, take a break and allow for the processing. Here's the thing that we have to look at. Sometimes we're so overwhelmed with everything, and we've spent so many years not sorting. We've spent so many years not thinking. We've just spent these years, this thing happens, then I do this, then this happens, and then I end up having to apologize or whatever. But, you know, it's just these steps have been cemented for years and years. But if you see something, and if you see or something happens and you're going, but I'm so confused, I just don't know what to think or feel. That's the time when you step back and you say, you know, and it's appropriate for anyone. It's appropriate if you're talking to your boss. It's appropriate if you're talking to your spouse, a kid, a child, a friend, a colleague. It's appropriate all the way around the block. When they say, you know, what about this? How's that? Does that work? You know, I need some time to process this. I'm not sure how I feel. Right now, all I know is my first response is no. And these are the reasons why, but that's my usual. And what I would need to do is go through and process this so that I can come back with an intelligent response. Now, again, it takes practice to do this. Wise women know this. Wise women know this is taking you outside of your comfort zone. But we also know too, and we've talked about this so often, is that comfort zones are just merely traps, keeping you on the couch with Netflix and a glass of wine, you know? And that's not going to get you the life that you want. The life that you want is on the other side of risk. And it's on the other side too of making emotionally intelligent decisions about how to run your life. That's how vibrancy gets plugged in. It does. You can't have it without it. You can't have a vibrant life without doing all of these things. And like I said, I personally believe that your emotional intelligence is the thing that needs to be a part of the way that you just play the game of life, so that you can have the vibrancy that you want every single day. It opens the door to better, deeper, kinder, more loving relationships with everything. And cool, right? Isn't that what we want? I know that's what I want. So think about this for a minute. Emotional intelligence, how do you plug it in? How do you become more aware of it? How does it make you feel? And as you try these different tactics and maybe do something different with your spouse or do something different with, a friend of yours and say something different, see how it works for you. See how you can, go to the next place of the next level up on a relationship. And I will tell you right now, we have some spaces still available for Inner Circle coming up on February 8th. Now, the book, The Carousel of Crazy, this is the book that I wrote. And I guess you could say that in it, this is becoming emotionally intelligent about food and stopping the addiction and the cycle and the crazy making that we have with this whole diet culture that's out there that has robbed us all blind. Can we just agree to that? But we also have other carousels of crazy in our lives. And, the carousel of crazy is just basically putting ourselves in the position of doing the same thing over and over again and somehow expecting different results. It takes a plan, and you have to put yourself, we talked about this last night, in the rising tide. You got to get into project mode about some of this stuff and make decisions about what it is that you want in your life. And when you consider all of this and getting off the carousel of crazy, you're also making a conscious decision to drop out of something that has taken up a lot of headspace and a lot of wallet, hasn't it? That's what this is all about. You want to find out about it, go to savingdinner.com/circle to find out about it. I'd love to have you in there. It's going to be really something coming up February 8th. Really excited about it. And I would also like to say thank you to everybody who shows up day after day and shares these videos and all the rest of it. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. And can I ask you for one more thing? Join us on our text messages, because that's the way, not only this time, you're also going to get more text message, not just in January about our 21st birthday, but other stuff coming up. This is the place that you want to be. So send your text messages in. Don't forget to join us on that. There it is right there, 855-960-3720 to get added to our text messages. We don't send them very often. Can I just tell you it's expensive? I'll just tell you it's expensive. We don't send them out very often, but when we do, pay attention, because you're going to want this. So what I did was, put that number in, and then I just changed the name to Saving Dinner, so I knew it was always about us, but we always do that. Anyway, I love that you love coming here. I love that you pinkied up. And let's just say that game on tomorrow, Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Check back for new episodes. If you missed the live show, you can always watch the replay. You can find Saving Dinner on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Until next time, pinkies up.